Hi, my name is Josh Bonett, and in this masterclass, I'll be teaching on ideas and execution. So I hope it's helpful for you. I'm part of the team here at Hillsong as a creative director. I work on projects like our Christmas Spectacular and moments and openers at our conferences and services. Worked on Robert Ferguson's TV show, What Do You See? But I'd like to start this conversation on ideas and execution with an understanding of objective. For me, objective, like the purpose, it's my number one. It's not a collection of references that I want to emulate. It's not a style. It's not the latest and greatest music video and how we can do something similar. It's none of those things. It's a statement of purpose. It defines the path on which we want to go hunting for ideas to fulfill that purpose. Now, when you start the process, you're probably going to meet with your leadership, and it's unlikely that your leadership's going to walk in the door of that first meeting and have that all beautifully laid out for you. They might. But to define an objective, you usually have to go hunting a little bit for it. You sort of extract it from the people you're talking to. So for me, the goal is usually to try and distill it down into a sentence or two. It's an answer to the question, what are we trying to achieve? And the easiest way I've found to do this is to ask the question from the perspective of the audience or the congregation, the people that are going to experience this piece of creativity. And the question is, what do we want people to think about or do or feel? Now, the answer doesn't have to be intense. It can be as simple as have fun or make a lighthearted introduction. It doesn't have to be intense every time. But if you meet with your leadership and ask them that question, what do you want people to be left with? I think it's a perfect start to this creative conversation. As an example, the objective might be for Father's Day for dads to feel honored and celebrated, or for kids, it's to understand that it's okay to be different. For a women's conference, the objective might be articulated to place value upon womanhood and inspire people to make the world a better place. Or it might be for Sunday morning to get people on their feet clapping and engaged before we start worship. None of those objectives sounds particularly creative, and I think that's deliberate. It's actually helpful. Lots of times we get together as creatives and we want to have ideas and we brainstorm, and everyone brings their library of references, their favorite latest and greatest, and there's a big flurry of excitement. But if we don't have a purpose to judge those ideas up against, and I guess judge them fit for purpose, then it can all get a little bit lost. So you might have a great idea and you might execute it brilliantly, but if it doesn't fit the objective or the vision of your senior leaders or of the service or of the event, your moment can pretty quickly get forgotten or even taken off the run sheet. So having an objective, it helps you manage the process of ideation. So when you go hunting for ideas, you have something to judge them against, and it's more meaningful for feedback for people than I like that idea or I don't like that idea. It helps you with brainstorming with others. You can use language like, that's a great idea, I love it, but it doesn't really tick the box on the objective, so let's shelve that for somewhere. It's not a shut door, it's a let's go somewhere a little bit different. We all bring different flavors to the table when we ideate, and I think that's awesome. Sometimes I've been responsible for producing a moment, and if it was left up to me to think of the idea, I would have done something completely different. I may even not like the idea heaps, just being honest, but if I like the way the idea achieves the objective, I can get behind that and I can unify around that. I also think it's just even practically a bit of a time saver for you. If you're directing a moment, you're going to have hundreds of conversations with people. So rather than taking 10 minutes of going through the references and everything that everyone's doing the whole time, if you can quickly articulate the vision or the objective for people in a sentence or two, that gives people something to unify around and they understand the actual overall goal of what you're trying to achieve. So, in summary, I guess on this first point, go hunting for this objective with your leadership and answer the question, what are we trying to achieve? And what do we want people to think about or feel or do? And that's your objective. You write it down in a sentence or two, and now you've got a lane you can run in. All right, ideas. Where do ideas come from? I think the answer is anywhere. I really believe God speaks to us, and I think we need to create environments for ourselves and for others, for our teams, that encourage ideas. That's true whether you're coming up with ideas by yourself or collaborating with others, or usually it's a mix of both. You have to set up the environment and yourself to win. If you want that part of yourself that comes up with ideas to flourish and be successful, then you need to feed it. You need to make it healthy, and you need to do the same for others. I mean, I do come up with quite a lot of ideas in the shower, it's true. But over the years, I've kind of come to think of myself as someone that comes up with ideas or is responsible for that as part of my work and ministry. a bit like a machine. What I mean by that is if whatever I put into myself, that's what I'm going to get out. Spirit, soul, body, the whole deal. But how do you set yourself up to win for ideas? Well, firstly, don't sabotage yourself before you start. I think often, especially if you're in a big bunch of people and there's a few outspoken people, or there's, like there might be someone in the room, oh, that person's a genius, their ideas are always better than mine. Well, if that's your dialogue you've got going when you start the process, you've shut yourself down. Maybe the ideas won't always be yours. Maybe you'll be part of developing it. Maybe it won't be your sole idea. But if you're going to start the ideation process with a mental attitude of, I'm not good at this, firstly, really your focus is on yourself, not your audience, and that's not always helpful if you're trying to make an impact. But secondly, you're not even giving yourself a chance to be the best you can. So have confidence in your purpose, in the part that you play in your team, so you and others can bring your finest. And I believe ideas come from God. I believe He uses us despite our best and our worst. It always amazes me. And I think all the facets of our life are woven together, and you just got to give yourself a chance to have ideas. Secondly, I want to encourage you that having ideas is actually a skill that can be practiced. Sure, there's talents involved and all that sort of thing, but no one's born having great ideas. Like it's actually a skill. And if you only work on ideas once or twice a year and you're kind of unhappy with what you produce, then maybe that's an indication you might not be doing it often enough. I like to collect ideas just for the sake of having ideas. I scroll through Pinterest and collect things I like without knowing what I'm hunting for. I just collect stuff that I like the look of. It's a fun exercise. You put the algorithm to work for you and you hunt down rabbit trails and find stuff and you make collections. On screen, we're showing you some stuff from my current Pinterest board that I've been working on for our Christmas Spectacular over the last few weeks and months. And rather than approach it from, I need an idea for the opener or what am I going to do for Joy to the World this year, I've just spent days and weeks collecting things I like the look of. I've now ended up with an almost insurmountable collection of 2,000 images to sort through. There's about 85 different categories. It's a bit extra. But the good news is it's all there waiting for me, and now I have to weave it all together. And sometimes hunting for the visual look or a particular idea not married to a song from the start is nice, because you then end up with, here's my collections of things I like the look of, here's my collections of songs and moments, now I get to put them together. I like collecting ideas for the sake of collecting ideas also because it takes the pressure away from, I need something for this weekend. We've all had those situations in church and life and ministry, but if you've collected a bank of ideas that you can shop in, it means when someone does need something in a hurry, rather than just whatever I can find on Google in 5 minutes or whatever I can think of straight away, I've got a bank of stuff I can shop in and I can get something good out of the vault. Some ideas have sat on the bench for a decade before I get to use them. And I love watching God weave that all together, and it's almost like the idea needed the right time to come forward. It's awesome. Thirdly, ideas are fragile. Like, it's a vulnerable place to bring forward an idea, especially if you're maybe a little bit less experienced in a team or if you don't normally do that. Don't speak roughly about your idea or others. Like, if you're going to be negative or talk about how an idea is a bit too hard to pull off or we don't have the resources to do that, at the same time as you're trying to bring ideas to life, you're kind of at cross purposes there. Ideas breed ideas. Let that flow happen. Then after that meeting, you can take all the ideas, judge them against the objective, the budget, the resources, and pick the best plan forward. It's a better approach. I mentioned this earlier, but a really key point for me is to have a lane to run in, to have an objective, not just a list of references to chase. I think sometimes as creatives, we like to think, oh, I just want total freedom. And believe me, I'm someone that doesn't really like being told what to do, true confession. But I do enjoy having a target to hit or a lane to run in. I think it's important when we try and articulate the objective or the goal or whatever, it's not mostly a list of what you can't do. So often, if we're looking back at what we've done last year for a particular event, we say, well, we can't do that because that didn't work, and we can't do that, and we can't do that. Giving people that as their brief to come up with ideas for isn't very motivating. It's kind of hard to come up with an idea that isn't something. So instead, just focus your language on what you do want it to be. And also, don't be too literal in your guideposts, or I feel like you get expected ideas. If you want something fresh, then give clarity but not restriction. So for just an easy example, if I was hosting a discussion around Father's Day special moment ideas, I would prefer not to ask for, hey, we're going to get together and have ideas for Father's Day. I feel like you get this year's version of last year. Instead, maybe cast vision like this, like we want to make a moment in the service that encourages men, it's upbeat, and it speaks to courage and strength, and maybe it would be good to include little kids in the service somewhere as well. Those are kind of the parameters we want to create within. All of a sudden, people might start Googling strength or courage or cute things for kids to do, as opposed to, I'm just hunting for Father's Day. These might sound like common sense adjustments, but I think they do make a big difference in the outcomes you get when you get people together to ideate. And then my fifth and final thought on where ideas come from is that there's always somewhere to go if you get stuck. Some people are great at instant ideas. You give them half a sentence and they got something for you. Other people need to go away and think for a couple of days. Some people work well with others. Other people like to ideate on their own. It's all valid. Make the process a mix of all of it, but recognize that if you're just looking at yourself and going, I don't have an idea, I don't have an idea, I don't have an idea, there's always something practical you can do to move further along that ideation process. It's not about sitting and waiting for lightning to strike. You can be proactive, you can practice the skill, you can get the right people in the room with the right attitude, you can give them the right objective and the lane to run in. You can collect ideas before you need them. You can make the environment encouraging for yourself as well and make it so that people enjoy being part of the process. Snacks are very helpful. You can give people the freedom to create ideas and contribute ideas without them feeling like if I come up with the idea, I have to be the person that pulls it off. So in the area of ideation, sometimes it can be viewed as a really sort of intangible area. Just leave it up to the geniuses. But God's the ultimate creator, and while some people might be more skilled, they might have practiced it more, they may even be more naturally talented. I don't think that gives us permission to write ourselves off from having some great ideas ourselves and being part of the team. And everyone can get better at it. You can change your environment. You can talk to different people. You can go for a walk. You can explore the edges a little bit more. Just believe that God will use you, because I believe he wants to. Some of you are watching this right now and I think maybe your own brain's telling you, oh, he doesn't mean me, but actually I'm specifically talking about you. God wants to use you. He wants to help you be part of a team that communicates his truth. And if you'll just position yourself for that, and maybe take a few risks, make a few mistakes, I think God can use you, and I think you can have great ideas. Once you have an idea or two that fulfill your objective, and it's good to have more than one, stay fluid in the development of that idea. Stay open to things changing and becoming better. Talk to people about it. Talk about it with a wide bunch of people, and you'll soon see and pick up which ideas people really grab hold of straight away and which parts people are a bit confused by. And you can also start to figure out what the creative heroes of the piece are going to be. So for me, if I'm producing something, there just usually isn't the resources to make everything A grade awesome. That doesn't mean we're aiming at average, but it means maybe the vocals and the lighting and the still image on screen are the heroes of this piece. And therefore we are keeping it fairly simple for some of the other areas. Is it the cinematography or the costumes, the vocals, the lighting, whatever it is, it doesn't mean you don't want all the elements to be great, but realistically you sort of have to aim at what are my heroes, and that's where your main focus is going to go. It's probably where most of your budget and effort might go. And I think that really helps you as you set out down the path of you've got an objective, you've got an idea, now you're developing it and heading towards execution. Well, thanks for spending some time with me. I hope it was helpful for you. In the next part of this series, we're going to talk about how to pitch your ideas, preparing briefs, and then after that, execution and excellence, rehearsals, and a few more fun things.